Today your mercy calls us to wash away our sin. However great our trespass, whatever we have been. However long from mercy our hearts have turned away. Your precious blood can wash us and make us clean today. Today your gate is open, and all who enter in shall find a Father's welcome and pardon for their sin. The past shall be forgotten, a present joy be given, a future grace be promised, a glorious crown in heaven. Amen. Amen. I invite you to turn to our text in Luke chapter 19. And the reason why I ask you to turn there for two reasons. Number one, I'm not going to read through the passage again. I got to try to preserve my voice as best as I can. But I need you to turn there because you need to see the story that immediately precedes our text for today at the end of Luke chapter 18. Because these two stories go very well together. And as they fit together, we begin in Luke 18:35, as Jesus drew near to Jericho. And then 19:1, Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. So we have these two stories fit together where Jesus, his journey is by Jericho, through Jericho, as he nears Jerusalem to go to the cross. And it's interesting that in both of these stories, as well as throughout all the Gospels, but especially knowing that he's getting closer to Jerusalem and nearing the cross, Jesus still takes the time to notice people. And in both of these stories, you've got a crowd that is clamoring around Jesus, but Jesus still takes the time to notice individual people. At the end of Luke 18, it's a blind man. At the start of Luke 19, it's Zacchaeus. But if you pay close attention, Zacchaeus is also a blind man. Where the one at the end of 18 is physically blind, Zacchaeus is spiritually blind. And they both want to see Jesus. Now, the man at the end of Luke 18, he takes the very direct approach. All conventions are thrown out the window. There he is. He's fighting his way through the crowd. He's making sure Jesus notices him because the crowd wants him to shut up, and he's still crying out all the louder. So he takes the direct approach. He wants to see Jesus. He wants to make sure Jesus knows who he is. Zacchaeus, not so much. He climbs up in a sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. Because he desired to see Jesus from a comfortable distance. But notice that both of them are blind. Both of them want to see Jesus. And both of them take extraordinary efforts to get there. What about in the church today? You look around. Where are the marginalized people? Those who are marginalized in our culture, those who are marginalized in our society, those who are marginalized in our community, where are the marginalized people in the church today? I think there are times in which the church views them with a bit of hesitation. There are some in the church today that may even view these marginalized with a lot of suspicion. Because whether they have great or little means, no matter which, there's one thing that is the same about these marginalized, like the blind man and Zacchaeus. They're small in stature. And the church, the crowd, serves as an obstacle. Serves as a barrier that they have to get around. Can you imagine a blind man trying to pick his way through a crowd? And as I was told in Bible class today, for those of you that are height challenged, likewise getting through a crowd is just as difficult. And so as you have these small in stature people, and you've got the crowd that serves as an obstacle, it might just be a barrier that you have to get through. Sometimes the church, the crowd becomes an obstruction that just keeps you away. But then there's that person that takes the extraordinary effort to climb the proverbial tree. Even though they don't fully comprehend what they are going to see or what's going to happen to them. And I want us to see today that you and I are not the Zacchaeus in the story. You and I are the crowd. And sometimes we as the church, and sometimes we individually, I know I'm in that place. There's a certain stigma that's attached with associating with these marginalized people. And sometimes it's seen as a radical move. If you do, it's seen as a radical move by those who are doubtful that these marginalized people have anything to offer. That we as a church, if we minister to them or if we bring them into our fellowship, that there's nothing that we can benefit from. And it becomes this radical move if we do, but more times than not we murmur. We murmur about being with the wrong people because they don't look like us. They don't think like us. They don't talk like us. They don't believe like us. They don't live like us. They don't smell like us. And somehow we murmur about it being the wrong people. Sometimes it's about social boundaries. Sometimes you get around these people and the way they speak, it's like, really? You said that? Or sometimes, as we have experienced at karaoke, you really sang that song? And sometimes it's about, you wonder if they have any concept of what social boundaries are. And with the jokes that they tell, you sort of just cringe a little bit. Sometimes it's about religious expectations. Lo and behold, in some churches, if you don't show up in a suit and tie, if you're wearing jeans or shorts or tennis shoes or raggedy t-shirt, that somehow there's a religious expectation that when you gather with the group of God's people, that you have to dress a certain way. You have to act a certain way. Sometimes it's about personal opinions. and the one I'm guilty of, personality clashes. Where your personality doesn't quite get along with their personality, so you just feel like you're better off to keep them at a distance. You want to keep them at a distance because you feel like they're going to cost you and they're going to cost your church its reputation. Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. He climbed up in the sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. And the Lord said, Zacchaeus, you come down, for I'm going to your house today. I'm going to your house today. And what's pivotal in this text is the last verse, verse 10. The Son of Man didn't come for the righteous. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost, the marginalized, the hurting, the helpless, the hopeless. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Because Jesus desires to meet. He desires to meet even those that we might be the most hesitant to want to gather with. Jesus desires to hang out with those who have strayed. Jesus desires for all men, even the ones we just have a hard time getting along with. Jesus desires that all men enter into a life-changing relationship with Him. I'm glad He does, because that's why I'm here. And just like He did for me at the baptismal font, and as He does to me constantly, day in and day out, Jesus comes now. Did you notice the word today in this text? Jesus comes today. It's immediately. It's not, oh, I'll see when it's the right time to go talk with them. No, Jesus came today. And He calls me by name. I've called you by name. You are mine. He comes today for each one of us. He comes today through His Word. He comes today in His body and His blood. He comes today and calls us by name. Take and eat. Take and drink. And in that moment, He brings sight to our spiritual blindness. He brings sight to help us to see those He desires to reach out to. He brings sight to a broken heart so that it may become a faithful one. And in the process, we become a little taller. For those of you that are physically challenged, it doesn't mean that. We become a little taller in our faith. Where we can see. Where we can see who Jesus is and what Jesus does. But we also can see who needs Jesus. Because as He has implanted that faith within us, as He did it within Zacchaeus, it now is today where we bear the fruit. We bear the fruit in changed behavior. So today, Jesus still needs people who climb trees. Not a literal, physical tree. What tree does he desire for you to climb? How are you going to be a Zacchaeus today, where you are so desirous to see Jesus that you're going to embrace your smallness? Because you know you're not big enough to do this. You're not big enough to witness to somebody. You're not big enough because you don't quite know the words to say, that you're afraid that you're going to speak the wrong things. Where is Jesus directing you to embrace your smallness? Where is Jesus wanting you to run ahead of the crowd? Where you can climb up that tree because you want to see Jesus at work today. And so you climb up that tree and you see that place where Jesus wants to welcome a sinner. And then take some time. Turn up on that stoop. Open up the door to conversation. And see what happens. I asked for your prayers for me. I shared this with Sally. A week ago, we had a witnessing workshop down in Gainesville. And they challenged us to think of one person. Think of one person that you feel that you need or you can share Jesus with. And begin praying. Begin praying for yourself, but also begin praying for the other person, that there can be a conversation developed, that there can be a relationship developed, that there can be an openness to receive what you have to say. It's part of the backside of our prayer bookmark. And my person's name is on there. And I ask that you today, as you pray for yourselves in identifying that person that you need to go on their stoop and open up that door to conversation, pray for me. Pray for me and my relationship with Johnny. That I might have the occasion. I've been working on it. It's been interesting. But pray that as I climb up that sycamore tree to see where God is putting me to welcome a sinner, pray that my relationship with Johnny develops in a way that I can proclaim the name of Jesus to him. Because I don't know if he's a believer or not. But as I said, I'm concerned with his relationship. But I want to rejoice. Because that guy can sing. And I pray that God will enlist him in the heavenly kingdom to join the great choir of angels now and in eternity. And all God's people say,